Greetings, everyone. This is Eric Stewart from the Fishing Fanatics podcast, and today I'm joined with Curtis and Dan. So, Curtis has a background in biology, and he's actually a full time multi species guide in northern Wisconsin. And his guide service is called Fox Valley Outdoors. And then I'm also joined with Dan here as well, who's the director of sales of Vexan Fishing and Tackle Industries. But I'll tell you what, one thing's for certain about these two guys, they're both musky addicts. They love musky fishing, and I'm going to be diving into some different things about musky fishing with the different tips and experiences that they learned along the way. But Dan and Curtis, how you guys doing?
Doing great.
Doing.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate the
Yeah,
invite.
yeah, Eric, thanks for having us on. Really excited to talk some fish and a little excited to share some of my bass fishing background. I ended up, just so you know, I went to the University of South Carolina, is where my biology degree is from, and fished with the team. First boat I actually ever fished out of down there was Patrick Walter's boat. So we might have to talk a little bit about that. But anyways, it sounds like the focus is going to have to be musky here. So
Well, no,
excited to be here.
Curtis, that's actually a perfect segue into my first question that I always like asking either professional fishermen or people in the fishing industry at all. And Curtis, we can start with you for this one, since you kind of hit on it. What really got you to where you are today in fishing, from starting out when you were a kid, maybe fishing with your parents and all that? But what's that whole development kind of look like?
So really, my father gets all the credit for putting the rod in my hand. Unfortunately, not much more than that, but he gets all the credit for taking me out and keeping me fishing. But really, it kind of became my passion, and it's kind of built throughout my life. Fished tournaments at the high school level all 4 years. Carried that into college, but and then it's always been a part of my life and kind of carried it on. It's kind of a ad hoc way that I ended up as a fishing guide up in Wisconsin. And it's kind of a lot to cover in a brief introduction, but
Yeah,
we'll get into that.
definitely. And then Dan, what was your kind of first experience in the fishing industry, or what kind of got you hooked at the beginning?
Yeah, probably a different story than most other fishermen in the industry that you talk to, but we were always around fishing growing up. Grew up in Southwest Minnesota, and we'd visit Northeast South Dakota a lot. So we had all these little pothole lakes where we'd go catch pike or walleye or bullheads or whatever, and I ended up moving to Pennsylvania actually when I was going into fifth grade, and at about that time got into ball sports, and so played football, basketball, everything, and that kind of was all consuming for a long time. And toward, I would say, getting into my college career, I learned to bow hunt, and my first love was bow hunting. Um, and Fast forward a little bit, I moved back to Wisconsin. My parents were originally from Wisconsin, have a lot of family here. I met who's now my wife. Her family would vacation every year up in northern Wisconsin at the famed Eagle River chain, and so I started going up there with them and experienced all the musky lore for the first time. And I had never really lived in close proximity to go try that growing up. And so one year I made it my goal. I'm gonna go catch one of these things, and so did as much research as I could with the information that was available at that time. Nothing like it is today. You had to actually read books and magazine articles, and I read as much as I could and watched as many videos as I could. And that first follow that I got um, was the same adrenaline rush that I had when I'm sitting in the bow stand and there's a big buck coming in. And it was right then I was hooked. I knew I could do this. And so hunting really got me into musky fishing. And from then on, if I get a chance to go fishing, I struggle to do any kind of fishing other than musky fishing. If it's open season and I can go target them, that's what I'm going to do.
Hmm. And I've definitely had that same experience. Just talking to you down at ICAST a little bit on it. Like, I literally separated my life for like 3 years to just target muskies. And I didn't know you actually lived in PA for a while, because that's actually where I'm at right now. And it's a struggle out here in Pennsylvania. It's not easy to kind of locate them. And I kind of gave up that dream after those 3 years to kind of target them. So I'm excited to kind of dive more into your story, Dan. But let's start with Curtis here, because I think the connection between a lot of the guys who listen to me in the professional bass scene and the college bass scene to musky fishing for you. So what was that whole kind of progress kind of like for you?
So I guess so. I was, all the way through high school and college. I pursued, the kind of the tournament, at least fishing. But I don't know. I kind of I struggle with a little bit of focus because of like Dan. I played rugby all the way through college, and I graduated with high honors from the university. So I had my a lot of irons in the fire. But that was always kind of my focus, was bass fishing. I didn't really do anything else. I wasn't a walleye guy. I wasn't a musky guy. I mean, I dabbled. I've traveled. Done salmon fishing here and there. Trout fishing. I'm pretty proficient with a fly rod. But when post college, kind of the COVID era, I was kind of in between work, and I came up to the Sunrise Resort here, which I'm repping on my T-shirt, and to actually just to insulate a garage. Got talking with the owner, and kind of became apparent that he needed some help taking care of the place, and he lent me a boat, and I went out and I crushed the walleye. Like, I'm not much of a walleye guy, but crushed. Like, one of my first walleye I ever caught up here was like 27 inches, and that's huge.
Jesus. Huge
for an inland walleye. And I'm like, all right, bass are cool, but like, I'm hooked on this fishery. And got talking to the owner. I'm like, I just honestly just kept coming back, and I kind of organically turned to, all right, I'll manage this place for you, and it'll give me kind of a center to kind of pursue this kind of dream that was coming always in the back of my mind. It's like, maybe someday I'll be a fishing guy. But now it was kind of like, in your face, here's the opportunity. You got a place to work, like, in the Northwoods of Wisconsin, which is like, I came to realize it's like one of the premier places to kind of be a multi-species angler. And of course, it's also like the mecca of muskie. So naturally, it was kind of chasing the big smallmouth up here, and the walleye, because that was kind of it was not a direct translation, but it was the closest thing to bass. Like, I didn't have any musky gear, like I didn't have the heavy rods or anything, and kind of slowly progressed. Like, had opportunities with bass gear, caught some on bass gear. They were around, and it's like, well, if I'm gonna stay up here and guide, like, I gotta start learning musky, and then really the addiction and the bug just really starts to grow on you. I mean, it follows, like trying to take fish in the 8. I mean, throwing big baits. I mean, and just the adrenaline rush, kind of what Dan talked about. Like, I never was a big game hunter, like, or even deer for that matter. Like, I dabbled in birds and stuff like that. But I mean, whatever. I'll get the shakes if I catch a 5.5 plus pound smallmouth. But it's like, if I take that when a muskie crushes a bucktail or comes into the 8, or you just feel that thump on a rubber. I mean, instantly just all the adrenaline pours in, and you're just, it doesn't matter if it's a 5 plus pound smallmouth is huge smallmouth. Mm-hmm. A 35-inch muskie is an average muskie. It doesn't matter if it's 30 inches or 45 inches. Like, that adrenaline is just there the entire time, and it became so addicting, and just that the pursuit of that rush has really kind of dragged me down that hole of becoming a musky angler and pursuing it more. So
yeah, man, I know exactly what you're like, that feeling. And Dan, you hit on it perfectly when you relate it back to hunting too. It's like, that feeling is insane. And I've lost, I want to say, probably about probably a dozen to 2 dozen muskies just from getting a follow and then completely losing my cool and like messing something up in the figure 8. Like, It's so crazy the amount
so
of muskies
hard.
I've lost. I tell my friends all the time. It's like, yeah, I got 5 follows today. You couldn't get one? Nah, man, I panicked every single time.
It's just and it's the hardest
It's
thing.
so.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yep. I was, to relate it back, before I got into the fishing industry, I worked for a large corporation. And I was a corporate trainer. I'm a teacher by trade. That was my background, my education. And in one of our training classes, we would talk about, it was a leadership class, about how when you're under adrenaline stress, when your body's doing that, a lot of resources are taken away from your brain and devoted to make you stronger and quicker and faster. But when you have that 4 foot log, that torpedo, that muskie coming in behind your bait, your brain does shut off if you're not prepared for it, and you go dumb. I've seen so many people do it, and it really comes with a lot of experience and practice. And the figure eight in and of itself is a learned technique, and there are guys that are expert at it, and there are guys that are doing more of like a figure eye, or when they do get a follow, they totally freeze and panic, and that's how I started too. It was, it took a while to get into that where you can have that calm and cool collected state to actually get that muskie to eat in the 8.
It is kind of like an art form. And Curtis, I'm sure you can hit on this too. It's like people coming out for a muskie guide. What's it like to train them? Like, do you kind of like brief them like, hey, these fish are giant. Like say it's someone's like first time musky fishing. Hey, this fish is giant, and when it gets to the boat, you got to keep your calm, cool, and collect itself. And do you show them how to do the figure eight beforehand, or you just kind of wing it and just say like, oh, good luck with the figure eights? How does that work?
Really, I like to start my clients with just like an L turn at the boat, because a lot of times, just trying to get that reaction from them if they're brand spanking new, like. And just try and get them into that habit, just to try and get them to get that immediate reaction, and know that they're going to be like, I tell every single one of them, especially if they're new, it's like, you're going to freak out like the first several times you see these fish, and like it is okay, but like find your center, find your calm, and do your best. I mean, hunters that I've had in the boat have actually tended to be the best at it, but even I sometimes, you get, it's 4 or 5 hours into a day, and you're not prepared for it, and all of a sudden there she is, and you're still kind of like, trying to, jump. And really it takes a lot of time for me. The way I try to compartmentalize it is, kind of muscle memory. You're always going to the 8, a couple turns, keeping the rod tip deep, and giving yourself the most automatic, I guess presets, if you will, just on your form, and training that, because that's what's going to keep you engaged in the bait in the right spot, to give you the most opportunities to convert follows into eats. And it's not easy. It really is an art form, and that's one of the things that separates musky fishing from like any other type of fishing that you can do, from except maybe some guys are starting to do the 8 trap on bass with these bigger glide baits, and it's really cool. Like the homeless fisherman guy has been putting out some like awesome 8 trap videos off that paddleboard, and it's like all right, there's a little bit of crossover there. And one topic, I guess, I don't know why there's not as much cross pollination between the big bass or big bait bass scene and musky fishing, which is kind of something I'm curious about, but that's a totally different topic for maybe another visit.
That's a great topic though, because I'm a big swim bait guy, and like I know the throwback baits with the homeless fishermen. I got to meet them down at the swim bait universe, the gathering down there, and it really is like a lot of the baits that you see for glide baits that people make, either it's a shad glide bait or a perch glide bait or anything like that. Those bigger baits, they work really well for musky fishing too. And a lot of the times when I'm in a river situation or even a lake situation fishing a weed line, like a lot of the times I will go to that bigger glide bait that is kind of expensive, so I make sure I have a big leader on it and throw it down down those different situations, and it ends up working out decently well. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the big glides for sure. But so over the years, you guys have a ton of experience musky fishing, and I'm gonna get on one thing here that a little bit later on about the world musky hunt that you guys just did. But before we get there, let me ask you a few questions about musky fishing that I've heard on different YouTube videos and different topics. I just want to get your guys' feel on it. So the first thing here I have is moon phases. So is that kind of whole thing about moon phases, is that a myth, do you feel? Or is that like a real thing, how muskies like actually react to it?
Dan, you want to
I can go
take the
first,
lead
I
on this
guess.
one?
I I am very much a believer in moon. I think there's way too much data out there to suggest otherwise. Um, when we fish in tournaments or large group outings, and you know, people are snapping a picture of their catch and the times are logged, there are very distinct windows where fish decide to eat, and often they are correlated to the moon. I can speak to a trip I was up north this earlier in June, and I got 4 bites in the couple days I was fishing, and 3 of them were almost to the minute on a moon phase, whether it be overhead, underfoot, rise, or set. Um, and and maybe it's a self-fulfilling prophecy a little bit, because I plan how I'm working a spot or an area of a lake. If I move to fish earlier and I'm coming back on a fish on a moon event, and I want to be dropping my bait in that fish's face where I think it's at moon. So is it eating because I dropped the bait in its face and I knew right where it was at, or was it because of the moon? Now, and this is something else interesting about musky fishing. For every rule in musky fishing, there's two more that contradict it. So sometimes the windows happen and you see all these guys catch fish, maybe even on different lakes, or a really big lake, and the window happened, but it wasn't anywhere close to a moon. It was some other factor, which a lot of times may be related, and probably is related to weather in some way, shape, or form. So weather probably trumps everything. It does, but moon is very significant to follow, in my opinion. Curtis, I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I'm a believer in the moon phase stuff. Whether it's around a major, and when you're staying on fish or in a certain lake or body of water, sometimes it'll be just before the major or minor starts, or just after or at the peak. But I'm 100% with Dan that weather trumps everything. So high bluebird skies, you find yourself on a clear lake, you might get a fish to move around a major or a minor, but it's not going to eat. But there definitely is a correlation, but I follow it. I'm around it, but kind of there's a spot on a given hump. There's a time on the moon phase where you're going to be able to really lock in those fish. Like sometimes it's I don't know a half hour before. But it stays consistent, especially right now up in northern Wisconsin. It's like a half hour before right now, and like that morning major has been a lot better than the evening or afternoon stuff right now. And sometimes I've seen it where it's a really good moon phase, and they're eating at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You're not having to get up at 4 in the morning to be on the lake, because you're going to get a really good window that time. But that just kind of comes from staying behind these fish, and that's kind of where it counts.
Business owners and marketing professionals in the Philly area, Bad Rhino takes the overwhelm out of digital marketing. With tailored digital marketing services, from social media management to SEO and PPC advertising, our expert team navigates the complexities of the digital ad space for your business. Let Bad Rhino lead you to success. Visit badrhinoinc.com and let's take your business to new heights. Bad Rhino, we do digital marketing, so you don't have to.
Gotcha. No, that's some great insight by both of you there. And then another thing that I didn't know when I started musky fishing that might be helpful for listeners first getting into it and all that is this thing called ghost followers. And I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, I didn't know muskies sometimes follow your bait but don't follow it all the way into the boat, which is why a lot of people do the figure eight for so long. But on the backs of ghost followers, how often do you guys have a live line out there to try to snag those fish?
Curtis can speak to
as a
this.
guide,
Yeah.
as a guide on a guide trip, I seriously do quite a bit, and I call it the guarantee, if there is such thing in musky fishing, and it shapes up a lot of fish, and I can personally, from my limited experience in live scope, like these ghost follows, let's put it this way: I moved 7 fish one night. We only saw them on scope. Never got them to the boat, never saw them, and I would have been like, this was a really slow night if it wasn't for scope and just watching these things. And it was insane. Like, I don't personally have one on my boat yet. It's probably coming. But, to watch these fish, like, fly, you're like, oh my God, it's about to go down, cranked, just do something to get them react, and then nothing. And you keep, bringing to the boat, nothing. You looking in the water, nothing. It really is quite something, how these fish can just appear. I was just reel on freaking Instagram the other day. This guy's like doing this lazy figure eight, and then all of a sudden a 50 just materializes as it's eating the bait, and it's like, where did this fish come from? Like, and it blows my mind sometimes, but that is certainly anything you can do, especially early on, whether, as long as you're following your state's regulations, everything's a little bit different, having a live bait back there, dragging it around all times of the year, is definitely will kind of give you that extra, the extra bonus fish that gives you the confidence to keep coming back. And, and especially for like when I have kids in the boat, like, I put out the bonus rod and I'm still explaining to this kid how to cast, and a cork goes down, and kid 5 minutes into the day, never caught a muskie. We're holding like a 36-inch tiger together, and it's like, that kid had one other opportunity. He had a fish eat this little, bucktail essentially that I had him chucking around, but, young kid, didn't get a good hook set on the fish, but that's a perfect example of novice kid, or even someone at that level. That was the difference between him getting his first muskie that day and just having a shot. But most people do not get that lucky, especially like your first muskies, 36-inch tigers. Like, that's, I don't know, 4 more levels deeper on luck than you can ask for. But that's definitely something that I do to, pad the stats, if you will.
Sure.
With the ghost follows, it brings up a really good point, and a good tip that I give to people when teaching them is, and with the advancement in technology, we've been able to see how many fish actually follow your bait. Even on side imaging, you can pick them out. If you're watching, you can see when you had a follow, or a graph follow, we might call it too. But it stresses the importance of figure eighting after every single cast, and probably doing a good 2 to 3 8 circles or figure eights, because it does happen. It's almost like being able to cast twice as many times in your outing. If you do 2 more figure eights, many times that fish will appear out of nowhere, like Curtis said, and just smoke it right at your feet. And there's no greater adrenaline rush when that happens. And I've seen grown men turn into little girls very quickly when they have a big mouth appear out of nowhere right at their feet.
Yep, I've been there, man. One of my favorite stories, I've told it on the podcast before to another muskie guy, but the second muskie I ever caught, the first one in PA, I was fishing a weed line, and it was a long day. I was out there a while on a little John boat. My feet were hurting, my back was hurting. I was about to give up. I was sweating too, and just ripping it through weeds. Got it to the boat, did a lazy figure eight, and left it in the water. And I looked back at my dad, who's on the trolling motor on the back of it, and I was like, I was about to give up. I went, and as soon as I let my shoulders drop, I just felt a bunch of weight on the rod. Bunch of weight on the rod. Literally almost pulled me in. Dad, I got a fish, and he's scrambling for the net and everything. He missed the first net, he got the second net, and we ended up landing the fish. But it's like that crazy feeling of like getting a fish at the boat, or even seeing a muskie follow, is what keeps me muskie fishing for 3 years, keeps me coming back to it.
That's where the addiction and the disease starts. Like, I mean, I love when a muskie like crushes a bucktail weight on in the cast. Like, that's pretty up there. But like, that close combat, big fish right there, you got to talk to it, finish the job. Like I was kind of mentioning earlier, it's what sets this game apart. And until you take a fish in the 8, you haven't given, or at least had a chance to take a fish in the 8, you haven't given muskie fishing a try. Like, until that happens, you haven't given it a try, because I guarantee after that, 99% of people, unless maybe you're pulseless, you're gonna want to come back for that. I mean, yeah. But if you're not ready to invest a lot of money and time, maybe don't sample it, because there is no escaping. I mean, speaking from my bass background, I literally chased kind of the bass and the dream for off and on for the better part of 15 years, and quite frankly, I'm only 4 years into really my muskie career, and the amount of time that it's turned, and I mean, I have 6-pound smallmouth in my backyard. Like, I have like some of the best small inland smallmouth fishing in the country, frankly, if you ask me, in my backyard. And like, I'll go out smallmouth fishing, and if there's a muskie rod in the boat, like these days now, it's like it eventually comes out at some point, like whatever major minors rolling around, I'm like, all right, I'll pull it out. I'll fish for an hour, we got prime time. Like, it's really hard to get away from.
It is. It is, man. So the one thing I want to make sure we hit on here is World of Muskie Hunt that you guys partaked in. So tell me a little bit about that experience with it. I was checking out their Facebook page before we jumped on this podcast, but let our listeners know what that whole thing's about.
Yeah, the World Muskie Hunt was actually where Curtis and I first met a couple years ago. Curtis was a volunteer guide for the event, and it's not really a tournament. It's more of a gathering of people, and it ends up being our official cause is we have a number of fundraising or organizations that we support. Really it goes to create awareness about the area, and it's all centered around that great fish we chase, the muskie. So a lot of the dollars that we raise go to conservation. We donate to a scholarship fund that goes to someone who is pursuing a career in the field of conservation or marine biology or something to that effect. And then there's a Children's Cancer Foundation that we also help support. So it's a friendly competition. It is definitely competition, though. There's a lot of bragging rights on the line, and the event, which is going into its 48th year, is such a collection of outstanding people. That's really the best part of it. So we all get together, and it's a very unique model to it, in that you can only be a contestant in the hunt once in your lifetime. So the whole event is centered around 7 teams of 3 people that are the contestants. And we've had contestants that have never even fished before compete, and then we've had seasoned guides be a new contestant, right? So you have a wide variety of spectrum, but it's a great opportunity to introduce people to muskie fishing. And then those contestants can then come back and compete as past hunters every year. So in the competition of itself, there's a past hunter division, and then there's the contestant division. Every fisherman gets to go out with a guide. So we have a whole host of volunteer guides from the area. Some full-time guides like Curtis. Some others are just guys that know the area and the lakes and are seasoned muskie fishermen and have all the equipment. And some of those guys I've enjoyed learning from. They've never been a professional guide, but they've been fishing these lakes and chasing muskies for longer than Curtis and I have been alive. And to pick their brains and see what they do, we had, I think, one of the biggest fish caught of our new contestants this past year was from an old school guy that runs no electronics on his boat,
Ooh, I like
and he
that.
just knows.
Yeah.
I'd love to go fishing with him just to see how he does it because we rely on it so much, um, and he just has that feel, and it's all based on experience. So I get, that's kind of a summary of the event, and Curtis guided this year, I guided this year, and we got on some fish and made a bunch of memories, and you know can't wait to get back till next year. I mean, that's kind of how it goes every single year. So and there are some incredible stories that happen this year, just like last every year. And when you get to see those people that are just getting into muskie fishing have that experience as one of their first muskie experiences, I mean, it's good for the industry. It's good for my business. I'm creating muskie addicts every day, and they're going to need gear. So it's kind of fun in that perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of like an indoctrination into this tribe, if you will, of crazy people that go and throw big baits for hours on end just to see maybe one or two big fish a day, and that's why I get a lot of joy out of guiding, and I'm really really lucky to have found myself volunteer guiding this event because uh, the sharing of knowledge in here is because you're kind of volunteering, you're also the same thing. You're trying to get some novice people that I had most of the past hunters that I have my boat this year. That's like the one time of the year that they musky fish. They make a point to come back to the hunt, and so they don't get a ton of opportunities to fish. So you work really hard to get them fish, but you get some of these really seasoned guys. I like to think I'm pretty accomplished as a musky angler for being 4 years into the game, but I still have such a long way to go. Like I know nothing, and to kind of to get some insights from these guys who are willing to share some of their knowledge. It pays dividends, even though I'm there volunteering my time and material just to be there and to kind of be a part of the hunt as a guide or volunteer guide. I guess if there's people in northern Wisconsin that want to come up and volunteer their time, I mean, there always need more guides. If you're looking for something really interesting to do, and you got a 3-man team that wants to really come out and experience this and kind of get the whole fanfare and introduction to the area, as well as get to fish with some like really talented musky anglers, might want to look into putting together a team. Might want to talk to Dan about Quick Trip sponsoring you, but. Anyways, perhaps I said overstepped there, but yeah, no, it's been a really cool experience for me, and I'm looking forward to volunteering my time there well into the future. So,
Oh yeah, definitely seems like an awesome event, and I'll link all the Facebook page that they have and all their different outlets in the description too, so people can go check them out. Curtis, let's talk about your guide service a little bit. Tell people about where you fish. I know you target for more than muskie, so let people know about like what other species you target too, and all that good stuff.
All right, so I'm a multi-species outfit based out of Presque Isle, Wisconsin. So, if you the Minocqua area, it's north of the Minocqua area. So I kind of consider my territory Vilas County and northern Oneida County. I do some stuff, out of that, but for now, just keep it simple. That's kind of my territory. And then we do smallmouth, walleye, muskie. Like I was hitting on earlier, some phenomenal smallmouth fishing up here. It's nothing to shake it. Had at catching some fives up here, 5+s. Biggest fish I know that I know personally for sure that came out of here was 7.3, 5, like absolutely massive inland fish, and the build up here is insane. Check out my website. We'll plug that later, but you can hop on there and take a look at those smallies for those bass guys that I know that are listening. Definitely worth a trip. It's not all about the big water, Sturgeon Bay, Chequamegon Bay up here in Wisconsin. There's some hidden gems elsewhere, but and then walleye fishing. As a guide up in Wisconsin, you gotta that's kind of your bread and butter fish. That's what the tourists want to come up and catch. Fish fry, that kind of deal. Some panfish in there too, and then of course as I expand on musky, I want to share it, and obviously I'd want to that's the high dollar fish. That's what people they'll pay the big bucks to come out and fish, and so definitely making a point on doing that. And I got to plug one more thing on here. We had 6 tiger muskies have hit my boat this year, so I got a hot hand for tiger muskie for those guys. So it has nothing to do with skill or anything. You can't go out and target muskie fishing. All I'm saying is that I got a horseshoe in my hand right now, and if you want to come over and touch it, feel free. Anyways, but yeah, that's kind of the MO. It might not be Fox Valley outdoors for very long. Kind of the story behind it. I grew up in the Fox Valley area in Illinois, and it didn't dawn on me that there was a Fox Valley in Wisconsin. So everybody thinks that I should be guiding over in the Appleton area. So this might be rebranded, but believe me, it'll be easy enough to find at the. There'll be a decent crumb trail for y'all to get there, everything, and then everything from live bait fishing, just kind of simple stuff under slip bobbers, all the way up to advanced techniques. I really try to tailor my services to my clients and what I can do to kind of make our time on the water together most beneficial to the client. So I want to see people come back and keep fishing with me year after year. So there's levels to it, and I want to share the knowledge that I've gained from all the bass fishing. And I might be fairly young, but I'm blessed to have a lot of hours on the water, and to kind of shorten the learning curve a little bit the best I can.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it, people. If you're looking for a tiger muskie, Curtis just guaranteed that he'll get you one. No, I'm kidding.
There's no guarantees in muskie no guarantees in muskie fishing. And if the muskie guarantee guide service hears this podcast, you might want to reconsider rebranding too.
I love it. And then Dan, let's talk about Vexan Fishing and Tackle Industries, because stopping by your booth at ICAST, saw you guys have a bunch of cool products. To tell me about both those companies.
Yeah, so we're basically 2 brands under one ownership. Tackle Industries would be our muskie and pike line. So we offer rods and baits. Our rods, I think, are the best bang for the buck in the business. They are high quality blanks, IM8 blanks, that are light and strong, and not to, they're virtually unbreakable. But if one does break, we carry a lifetime warranty on all our rods as well. So we stand behind our product, and we make some musky rods that can really fit some niches for people that a lot of other manufacturers aren't doing. We make a 2-piece musky rod. We make a spinning musky rod. We make a 10-foot and 10-foot-6 telescopic musky rod, which longer rods have been the trend for a few years now, and it's continuing to go that way. So guys that want to keep going bigger and bigger and bigger, I've kind of maxed out at 9.6, but I know soon I'm going to be trying to 10 and then a 10.6, but 9.6 seems to be kind of the sweet spot for me. So that's Tackle Industries, totally musky and pike line. And then Vexan is our multi-species line that covers everything else. So we have phenomenal bass rods, a huge assortment of bass rods, um, very, very good walleye rods. And that's something that you find in the Vexan line is it's species specific product. So a whole bass lineup, a whole walleye lineup, crappie, catfish, inshore, offshore, um, ice fishing. So kind of covers the whole spectrum of rods, baits, and accessories, tackle storage, something for everybody there, and offers that same phenomenal value, high quality product, innovative product that is at a working man's price, but it's high caliber equipment that we're putting out there, and we're very proud of that. Um, so you can check either of those out at vexan.com, Vexan, or tackleindustries.com. I'm sure Eric will throw them in the description. But yeah, if you're in the market for a new rod, check us out for sure.
Awesome.
And not to undermine Dan at all, but I know he said species specific rod, but their 7.6 medium fast rod in their walleye series is an awesome hair jig rod for bass. Just saying.
Yeah.
And that hair jig's becoming a big thing nowadays for bass fishermen, live scope and smallmouth for sure. That's money right there.
That's money, big time money. Bread and butter, baby. Bread and butter.
I love it. So before we get to plugging all your information, there's a question that I've been literally dying to ask you both on this podcast since we've been going through it. And that is, what is your guys' PB muskie? So I don't know who wants to start.
All right. So again with the Tiger, mine is a 45-inch Tiger. So I got it, but it's tied. I have a true 45 and a 45 Tiger, but the 45 Tiger, because it's a Tiger, is kind of it's a cut above. But
it's a multiplier effect.
there's a multiplier. I'm not actually sure what the conversion rate is on that, but if someone wants to offer some suggestions, I'd love to know what I should be telling my people my PP is. But
if you've never seen, a Tiger muskie, it's a hybrid between a pure strain muskie and a northern pike, but the builds on them are just unbelievable. They have, they're just thicker, fatter, meaner fish all the way around, and the paint jobs on them are stunning. I mean, best anywhere in freshwater fishing, as far as I'm concerned.
So bringing in a little bit of the biology background. So y'all know how you get a mule, right? So you cross a horse with a donkey, you get a mule, sterile hybrid. But hybrid vigor, everybody, everybody knows from all the, colloquialisms that mules are, tough as
stubborn
nails and stubborn. That's exactly what a Tiger muskie is. It is a sterile hybrid between a muskie and a pike. Put them together, you get one bad fish. So it's essentially the mule of the fishing world. So if you wanted, if you needed any more encouragement to try and go catch yourself one of those things, there it is, folks.
Yep.
And then Dan, what's your PB?
My PB is 48 3/4 inches. It's an inland Wisconsin muskie. And I had the family record for many years. I have two younger brothers, and my dad muskie fishes, and there's always healthy competition between all of us. And my brothers have caught 4-footers, and my dad this year at the World Muskie Hunt boated a 49-inch inland Wisconsin muskie that was just an absolute specimen. So he's riding pretty high right now, and couldn't be happier for him. I don't think I've ever seen him smile bigger than it, in the picture that he was holding that fish. So
that was just last weekend he did that?
Yep.
Wow, man. That's awesome. That kind of sucks for you, but that's good for your dad.
Oh yeah, no, that's great for my dad. So now I gotta, the benchmark in muskie fishing is always 50 inches. Why it is that way, I don't know. It's a nice round even number, but that's where a lot of fish tend tend to top out at, especially in, our neck of the woods in northern Wisconsin. Those fish exist, but they are, you know, Curtis could probably put a better number on it than me, but it's a one in thousands of fish. They are a needle in a haystack. You go to other places. There's places in Minnesota, Green Bay, of course, St. Lawrence River, like you talked about before, Lake of the Woods. There are places that have more 50-inch fish, but in northern inland Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, a 50 is a rare specimen. So that'll continue to be my goal, and now it's a double goal because I got to retain the family record, and the only way I'm going to do that is by catching a 50. So
Yeah, absolutely. Got to beat that record. So let's I'm going to take some time here, roll out the red carpet for both of you guys to plug any of your social medias, any of your websites too, where people go check out your work, and yeah.
All right, I'll lead this one off. So probably the best place to find everything else is my Instagram page, the Captain Cletus. So Cletus spelled CLUTR. Oh, hold on. CLUTES. Yeah, spelling is hard. I just fish, man. But yeah, the Captain Cletus, and then you can. There's links there to my YouTube channel and everything, and then guide website www.foxvalleyoutdoors.com. Again, there's links on there to get to my socials, and then from the Instagram page, you can pretty much get to all the meat and potatoes of my content. So. Yeah, that's how you know to find me. I hope you guys had your pens ready. But
Go ahead, Dan.
yeah, and for as I mentioned before, Vexan.com, tackleindustries.com. You can find both of those on Facebook and Instagram. Check them out. Some cool snapshots on there. Maybe featuring our friend Curtis here and some of those trophy fish pictures. And then I also my tournament partner that I fish with. Our tournament team is called Ignition Outdoors. It's a group of guys that do that. So check out Ignition Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram as well. A lot of walleye content, salmon content, some musky stuff, some ice fishing stuff, some deer hunting stuff. So just a good, wholesome group of people that puts out some good stuff. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I will definitely link all those links in the description. People go check it out. And Dan and Curtis, man, I appreciate you guys jumping on doing this podcast with me. Definitely learned a lot about musky fishing and what you guys both do. So I appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, Eric.